after all of the fuss we had over the England team taking the knee and all of the Premier League teams taking the knee, the fans got back in the stadiums. They booed that action. They made it clear that they do not like this political protesting.
You
Doesn't
say
matter what
they,
the
but
protest
hang
is
on a second.
for.
You say they booed. I mean,
I do.
whilst I don't support taking the knee, that's a personal choice. If somebody asked me to do it, I wouldn't personally do it. I do respect the fact that other people may have a different view and may wish to, but also booing any team, if they are your team, that has to be wrong. You've got to condemn it, haven't you?
No, it's freedom of speech. I think if the players are free to take a knee, the fans have to be free to say no, we don't like you taking a knee. It's quite clear cut, really, isn't it? Everyone's expressing their personal views in that way.
You say that, but then on the other hand, if you're trying to tackle discrimination, and it's a very visual way that they can say that we're not going to put up with it. And
That's the clincher, isn't it? Because it's not tackling discrimination. It's a movement that is clearly aligned with Black Lives Matter. And people at this point know what Black Lives Matter is all about. It's a neo-Marxist, anti-family, anti-police, anti-British organization and or movement. And so for people to be taking a knee, aligning themselves with that, purposefully or not, is not appropriate. There are plenty of ways to say that we're against discrimination, plenty of ways to say we do not support or condone racism, but this is not the appropriate one to do it in this sport.
But then on the other hand, people would say that people were taking the knee way before Black Lives Matter. Or is it simply that Black Lives Matter took over that as a result of what happened over in the States? Because if you look at, say, for example, the various flag disputes and discussions that we've had over the years where organisations who were less than fragrant took over, whether it's St George's flag or indeed the Union Jack, and made it almost unflyable, and then people have reclaimed it. Shouldn't people be reclaiming the knee to say, no, 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 this is what it stands for. It's nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. This is to do with a historic support and a historic way of demonstrating that we are not going to put up with this kind of discrimination.
No, because it started in the football game when players were taking a knee and wearing Black Lives Matter across their chest and or their arms. So it's very clearly aligned with that movement. But even if it wasn't, it's subjugation. It's not a very nice movement to be making. It's saying, certain people are above other people. It's anti-equality in an argument that is supposed to be about equality. I don't think it's an appropriate way to do it. Link arms or something, or, wear the kick it out banner if that's more appropriate. But why consider a movement that people clearly link with a toxic ideology?
Do you think that teams like this are taking the knee because they know that people like you and I are going to discuss it, and therefore it gives them more airtime? Because on the other hand, if they just link their arms, people go, "Oh, they link their arms," or we wouldn't even talk about it.
No, I think they're doing it because they're peer pressured into it. And we've seen, thankfully, some very brave footballers just stand up while everyone else is taking a knee. And these are footballers of colour mostly. So that just goes to show how much people care about this as an anti-racist movement rather than a political agenda, doesn't it?
One of the other things that I'm really concerned at, and maybe you can help me out on this, is that, first of all, I'm very upset that the achievements of the England football team have rather been distracted by this whole race row. And secondly, that as a white middle class bloke, I'm beginning or increasingly feeling uncomfortable about almost saying anything on this matter, despite having been brought up in this country and hopefully being as tolerant as I can and learning as much as I can about different races, backgrounds, creeds, colours, orientations, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm feeling increasingly uncomfortable in this country that I can even express a view without being cancelled should I say the wrong thing.
That's the saddest thing of all, James. And that's what I'm hearing from most people at the moment, especially most white people. They feel that they cannot even engage in the conversation of race. Sorry, there you go. I nearly slipped up there. This is the problem. We have to tread on eggshells because this is the narrative that's been created. And it's that every white person is somehow racist and or has some kind of privilege, and every person of color is somehow discriminated against or oppressed in this society. And it's not true. If we want to get to a place of better race relations and or social cohesion, then everyone has to be involved in the conversation. We can't say you're not allowed in this conversation because that does not promote equality.
I mean, for example, that book, Why I'm Not Talking to White People About Race, is
disgusting.
Well, yeah, it's not the greatest piece of work in my view, simply because it does rather, in the same way, it does exactly what it's asking people not to do with the race discussion, arguably with white people, because apparently we don't understand or we're all privileged and therefore can't possibly understand, as opposed to maybe reading the book by David Baddiel, which talks about anti-Semitism, which in the most extraordinary way, and it absolutely nails why so many people have a problem with discussing different elements of discrimination that take place in our society. Just finally to you, Calvin, as we look forward and we try and find a way in which, whether sport or sporting individuals or social media and digital media, all of these things that are almost conflating together to create the most toxic environment, what do we do to make things better?
I think at this point we have to hold the media to account, because I think the media is stoking a lot of this. You know, we saw recently that mural for Marcus Rashford, I don't know why he has a mural, he's not dead, was graffitied on. It was some abusive words like useless beep. But the mainstream media, in fact, all of the media, including this outlet, reported it as racist graffiti. There was nothing racist about it. So we need to hold the media to account and say, actually, give us the facts and stop twisting things politically to stoke racial tensions, because it is the most tolerant, inclusive, diverse nation in the world to live. It's a great place to live, and the media keeps stoking it as black this and white that, and it's not appropriate. It's not okay. We need it to stop.
Okay, there